What is up, everybody? Week 1 of the college football season. It's early in the morning, and I seem to be the only one excited here. No, Cole's pretty excited. Cole Cubelic here for our SEC Insider segment, and we're going to highlight one of the bigger games of the week, Auburn versus Washington. That's 6 versus 9.
You think that's the biggest game of week 1?
One of the biggest.
No, I'm just asking.
Games.
Is it the biggest game of week 1?
I feel pretty confident about it being one of the biggest games of the week. I will be there.
I just
in
asked,
Atlanta.
is it the biggest? And you said one of the biggest again. Is it the biggest game of week 1?
Yes.
Thank
I think there are a lot of high implications on this football game, and we're going to talk about it. So
Okay.
Cole Cubelic here, 3-man front on WJOX. You can catch him from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on weekdays. Don't forget about it. He's a cool cat. Yeah, I want to get your assessment. You've gotten to go to some of the practices at Auburn. You've gotten to watch this team come together. They're going back to the same stage they were on the last 2 games. Unfortunately, things didn't end the way they'd wanted to and hoped for. But coming off that loss, those 2 straight losses, if you will, overall, what's your assessment of this team? Are they hungry to get back out there, and do you think they've got it all together for this first game to be able to beat Washington?
There are absolutely some question marks, Lauren. I think when you mention 0-2 in the stadium, I don't put as much weight into that. I think, if anything, they have experience playing in this stadium. That'll help them. The Washington kids haven't been in and seeing the Halo scoreboard and seeing the roof if it's going to be open, which now apparently it operates and it works. And there's a lot going on in that stadium. You've been in it, you know. I mean, there are distractions everywhere. So it could be a bit of an advantage for Auburn. The reality is what this game comes down to: coaching, execution, players, talent. I don't think guys like Casey Dunn, the Jacksonville State transfer, get enough credit for how good they were for Auburn last year. Austin Golson being sort of the Swiss Army knife of that offensive line last year, moving around. Braden Smith was an early draft pick. He was just an absolute statue in that Auburn offensive line for a long time. A guy that was so consistent, so durable, played such good football. He's not going to be back on that offensive line. Prince Tega has all the ability in the world at left tackle. Markel Harrell and Mike Horton have reps at guard. But let's be honest, if they were that good, they would have been playing before now.
So let's dive a little deeper into the actual matchup here. We're going to go Auburn offense versus Washington defense. I think the biggest thing, you get Jared Stidham back, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Of course, going up against Jake Browning on the other side of the football. You got the injuries at receiver, Will Hastings, Eli Stove. How big of an impact is that going to be, especially when you go up against one of the best defenses in the Pac-12 that really led last year all major statistical categories and returns almost all their guys?
Yeah. No, they're a good defense and a really good inside linebacker. The defensive line is pretty good. They lose Vita Vea, who was obviously a stud on that defensive line. The back end of the defense is where Auburn should be concerned. 2 really good safeties for Washington. So if they're able to play with less numbers on the back end and sort of neutralize what Jared Stidham does, well, then that gives Washington the advantage in the run game, which they might not need because of the young offensive line anyway. I would expect the Auburn offense to look like this because you don't have the confidence in the offensive line or running back just yet. And here's the tough part. Practices are limited in fall. There's no more 2-a-days. You can't go back-to-back practices in full pads. They're not as physical as they used to be. The number of practices is fewer. So you can't go into this game and test a couple tailbacks. You can't go into this game and play 3-4 tailbacks and figure out who your best option is. You kind of have to know going into this game. Same thing with the offensive line. It's not going to say, we're going to play 2 centers or we're going to rotate tackles. You better be on your A game against this Washington defense because they're really good. I mean, guys like T.D. Moultrie and Big Cat and guys who played a little bit last year are going to play significant roles this year. The defensive tackle spot is deep for Auburn, so I don't expect them to be gassed late in the game. But the other thing about this, Laura, that you got to keep your eye on, Chris Peterson's going to run trick plays. I mean, go back to Boise. Go watch this Washington team. Almost every game last year, they have 1 or 2 for every game. They've had the entire offseason to work on this. I expect 3 trick plays in this game, and it could be the momentum shifters in this game for Washington.
So my last question for you here is, Cole, what are the biggest question marks, aside from the offensive line, that you hope will be answered after this football game?
If a running back will emerge to be sort of a guy that Auburn can lean on. Cam Martin's talented. It's not that he can't make plays. I believe he can make plays, but let's go back to great offenses in recent memory. 2010, 2013, last year maybe post-LSU game last year. Kerryon Johnson, Trey Mason, Nick Marshall, Cam Newton, Peyton Barber. There has always been a ball carrier or 2 that Auburn has been able to lean on with a really good offensive line. So we talked about the offensive line, but there's also been a ball carrier that this team has been able to lean on. Now, Jarrett Stidham's not that guy. Jarrett Stidham can move around a little bit, and he'll pull a zone read every now and then and keep it and make your defense sort of pay if you don't stay at home. But I think that when you look at who the ball carrier will be, that this team could potentially lean on down the road, that's the question that I want answered.
All right, he's Cole Cubelic, our SEC insider. Where are you at first week?
I'll be in College Station Thursday night, Texas A&M, Jimbo's opener.
Be a fun
and
one.
Saturday night I'll be in Gainesville for Charleston Southern in Florida. Dan Mullen's opener is the Florida head coach.
We got an exciting week ahead of us. Super excited.
Ready,
Football
it's here.
season is back. Let's go. This video was brought to you by Caliber, a luxury store in Homewood, Alabama that's reviving the finer things in hunting and fishing.